What's up, everybody? Garrett back here. I want to dive a little bit deep today. We just got done Mother's Day. Mother's Day was this weekend, so what a better time to talk about, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked horror franchises of all time. We know Michael, we know Freddy, we know Jason, we know Chucky, and those franchises, but one of the ones that I feel like does not get enough love is Norman Bates and the Psycho franchise. Psycho franchise consists of 4 movies. I mean, there was shows and spin-offs and stuff like that, but I want to focus on the 4 movies themselves because Psycho from 1960, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, is an absolute classic, and it really had no business getting any sequels. Now that's what's so interesting, and that's why it's so overlooked, because a lot of people agree and say this should have never had sequels, and a lot of people didn't even bother to check these things out. But I'm here to tell you that all of these sequels, in my opinion, are complete bangers. So we're going to get into each individual movie, but I want to go back in time and talk about when I discovered Psycho. I discovered Psycho back in the early 90s. Again, I was a little kid. I went to Universal Studios, and they had this Alfred Hitchcock kind of, not a ride, it was almost like a making of. I think it was called Alfred Hitchcock's The Art of Making Movies. I think that's what it was called. And they had these different scenes from his movies that you actually could kind of see, like the behind the scenes. For instance, the first thing I'm going to talk about, and I've mentioned this on the channel before, is sitting in a theater with 3D glasses on watching Birds. Now, Birds is one of my all-time favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies. It's one of my gateway movies into my love for horror. But it was this day that we sat in those seats, put those 3D glasses on, and I found out what real 3D was really supposed to look like. Man, I've never seen anything like that to this day. These birds seriously were flying all around me. I was ducking and weaving. My mom was doing the same. My brother was doing the same. And I felt like these birds were literally in my face, behind me, on top of me. It was insane. Now, I've talked to other people about this as well, and they said the same thing. They've never seen 3D like this before. But after the Birds 3D extravaganza was done, we went into this other room and they reenacted the shower scene for a movie called Psycho. Now, I was so enamored by this ride and the birds and Psycho that I was really showing a lot of interest in these movies. Now, with that being said, my mom started to introduce me to these Alfred Hitchcock movies once we got back, things like The Birds, things like Psycho, and I absolutely loved them, and they were both huge gateways into my love for the genre. Now, people could say Psycho is one of the first slasher movies, and I can kind of agree with them. Like we talked about before, it's an absolute classic. It's got one of the most epic kill scenes of all time in the shower. People couldn't take showers after seeing this in 1960. And it wasn't until the early 80s where you started to see these other slasher movies kind of come about, like Halloween and Friday the 13th and The Burning and stuff like that. But man, Psycho was kind of really where it started back in the day. The one thing about Psycho, it did kind of leave a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end, and in 1983, people talked about bringing Psycho back for a sequel during this early slasher craze. Now, man, when people heard that, they thought they were out of their mind. Why would you ever make a sequel to a classic movie like that? We see that all the time now. Why would you make a sequel to a classic? Why would you make a remake of a classic? But this wasn't a remake. This wasn't a reimagining. They wanted to take Psycho, and they said to themselves, there's more story to this Norman Bates, and let's kind of expand it and find out what happened to him after the original movie. And man, what a genius idea. Richard Franklin directed this. He was someone who looked up to Alfred Hitchcock in the art of filmmaking. And not only did you have Richard Franklin on board here, who did another movie, Road Games, at the time, and he just really had a very Alfred Hitchcock kind of style to his movies. And he thought, I can bring that style back, and I want to make this not just a sequel. I don't want to make this feel like a reimagining. I want you to be able to take this movie and have it so close to the original that when you go back in time, you think to yourself, did that happen in the original or did that happen in the sequel? And I'm going to tell you right now, I do the same thing. There are some parts of this movie that I'm not sure if this was in the original or it was in the sequel in 1983. And not only did you have Richard Franklin at the helm, but you had the writer, the brilliant Tom Holland, who I am a huge fan of. I like everything Tom Holland has done. I mean, you're looking at things like Class of 1984, Scream for Help, Fright Night, Child's Play. These are all movies that Tom Holland wrote, and man, he, in my opinion, is one of the best writers in horror. Now combine these two, you got Holland, you got Franklin putting this movie together, a movie that other directors like a John Carpenter's, a Cronenberg were kind of laughing, saying, how dare they try to do another Psycho movie? It's never going to work. Now, originally this was going to be a made-for-TV movie, but they ended up getting it into theaters, and man, it actually got really good reviews, but a lot of people just didn't really give it a chance because they were like, I am not going to go see a Psycho movie. There's no need for this. But man, this movie kicks so much ass. Anthony Perkins is back as Norman Bates. It takes place pretty much 23 or so years, the same timeline as this sequel, 23 years or so later from the original one, which again is insane that they took that long of a time and they got Anthony Perkins back. And to some people, this is just as good as the original, and I can really attest to that. I feel like this is almost a perfect sequel. It's really, really good. The story is good. You got Meg Tilly in here as well. It's an all-star cast here. You've got people returning from the original one. The story is very much, not a slasher, but it's a very much like a whodunit, a mystery. You're not sure exactly who's involved here. They do such a great job from beginning to end to get you thinking about who is doing these murders, who is crazy here, and man, I absolutely love this one. If you have never seen it, go back and watch Psycho 2. This is the brand new 4K from Arrow Video that comes in this box set, which I'll showcase later, but man, Psycho 2 is such a fantastic sequel to this franchise. Like I said, some people, and even me, compare it just as good as the original. When Part 2 was made, it wasn't really to capitalize on the slasher genre. Like I said, it just kind of came out. But they wanted to tell more of the Norman Bates story, which I think they did in such a great way. Like I said, when you take those first two movies, if you would put Part 2 in black and white, like it would literally feel like one long movie. They just did such a great job, especially the way it's shot, just really reminiscent of that original Psycho movie, in my opinion. But then we roll into 1986 where the slasher genre is booming. All these franchises are having sequels now, pumping these things out. Everybody's going crazy for the slasher genre. Well, that's where Anthony Perkins comes in and decides in 1986 that he wants to do a part 3 to this Psycho franchise. Now, man, he's on the directing chair now. He's the main actor here, but he really wants to change the way this is. He didn't want it to feel like the other two Psycho movies with its tone. He wanted to keep it similar. He wanted the Bates Motel. He wanted the mother. He wanted him. But this one's really cool. This one is different. This one is dark. This one is gritty. This one has this sleaze to it, which is a real different tone for this movie. Like I said, it's gritty. It's got this sleaziness to it. It's almost like it's got this noir feel as well. The score is insane. I love the score of this movie. Very, very creepy, atmospheric, almost something you'd find in like maybe even a Giallo movie or something like that. It just has a real cool score to it. A real cool sound. This one is more violent too. Like this one does feel more of a slasher movie here. But man, part 3, and I'm going to showcase it here. Look at the cover art here. Even that cover art is just really, really cool. Just Norman holding the keys, but I always love this one. And man, this one is one that I feel like does get overlooked a lot. Part 2, people that know it, praise it. Part 3, I don't know. I think this one, it just really kind of expands that universe a little bit. And his personality disorder that we've kind of learned through the first couple of movies. This one takes place about a month after part 2. So again, it really just does tie everything together, which I do appreciate with this, is that it's one continuous story here. Even though this one is shot different or maybe wrote a little bit different, it expands the lore and the legacy of this Psycho franchise of Norman Bates here. So man, Psycho 3 is another one that I highly, highly recommend. Super fun. Like I said, it's one of those slasher movies that gets completely overlooked, and it just adds to how great this Psycho franchise really is. Now, as we roll into part 4, The Beginning, this one is a prequel, which again, we didn't see a lot around this time in 1990. This was more of a made-for-TV. I think it debuted maybe on Showtime or something like that. I don't think this had a theatrical release. But man, what a cast. Olivia Hussey, Henry Thomas played a young Norman Bates. Anthony Perkins was back here again, kind of he was kind of reciting his life. He was kind of talking about his life on the phone here with a psychiatrist, and basically saying like he's gonna do this again, he's gonna murder again. And you learn about his life and what made him tick and what made him who he is today. And Olivia Hussey played his mother, and man, what a great story. This was directed by Mick Garris, but what a great prequel, in my opinion. I thought this was really well done. It was entertaining, with the backstory and the with Norman as an adult kind of telling you this story, but knowing there's more to what's going to go on with him at the end here, and it kind of wraps this whole thing up. And man, Psycho 4 is another one that gets completely overlooked here. This one is really good. Now, I remember seeing all of these movies as a kid, the same way I saw a lot of horror movies. Obviously with Psycho, the first one, it was rented for me after we went to Universal Studios. So I was really watching the original Psycho, really watching The Birds. But then there was some kind of marathon on TV at one point where I taped all these off of television, part 2, 3, and 4. And that's where I kind of saw these for the first time. And man, I'm going to go to my parents and see if I have any of these VHS tapes that were recorded off TV, because honestly, like, that's what the majority of my collection was as a young kid, was off TV rips. I didn't have a lot of like physical releases that you'd get at the store. They were just too expensive at the time. I had some, but you know, my parents were a little bit iffy about me watching horror movies as a young kid. So if it was on television, if it was on cable, I got away with it because they just assumed all the bad stuff was cut out, which 9 times out of 10 it was. Like, we didn't have Showtime, Max, or, you know, any of those paid channels, HBO. We just had basic cable. And sometimes these would come on and they'd be cut, or there'd be additional footage in there. But man, I wish I had all those tapes still. But you know, as you got older, those were the ones that you threw out first. You're like, I don't want these ripped off TV. I want the real deal, you know, and not these low quality SLP tapes. But what's so cool about those is you do get a cut version. You do get some scenes spliced in for television. You do get the cool commercials around that time. I'm going to go check and see if we do have the Psychos available to me. We also had Elm Street 4. I want to check that out. We had The Birds. So we had a bunch of different things there. But that's where I saw parts 2, 3, and 4 for the first time and absolutely fell in love with all of them. So much so that, you know, on DVD I grabbed them all. On Blu-ray from Scream Factory I grabbed them all. And this latest box set, which I did a full review on this when it came out. It was actually, I think, my set of the year when this came out a couple of years ago. And that is the Psycho set from Arrow Video. Now, again, if you want a full box unboxing and release on this, go check it out on the channel. But this comes with a cool shower curtain gimmick here. This sold out pretty fast. You've got a book in here about all the different movies. Bunch of features, but man, you check these out. You've got the original Psycho, which doesn't usually come packed with these sequels, so this was a very rare thing to get the first one put in here, and that was a huge thing for me to get them all together. Usually it's just 2, 3, and 4 that we're getting together. Psycho 2, Psycho 3, and Psycho 4. Beautiful set. But guys, let me know, do you feel that the Psycho franchise is super overlooked? I mean, in the horror genre, this pound for pound is one of the best franchises in my opinion. Another one that I feel like does get a lot of love, but pound for pound is a great franchise, Evil Dead. There's not many movies, but the ones they have are really good. This one, though, in my opinion, you take these 4 movies. Now, it did have some spin-offs. Like I said, the TV show Bates Motel. I watched a little bit. I did like it, but I haven't really watched all of it yet. These are all awesome movies. So, man, I feel like this is an A+ franchise, really. You've got the classic there and all these other ones that, in my opinion, are solid movies. Solid slasher movies from the 80s. Man, you guys, let me know in the comments down below. Is Psycho franchise one that you overlook? Is the Psycho franchise one that you're just not really familiar with? Did you never watch the sequels? Because why would you make a sequel 23 years later to a classic movie? Guys, let me know down below. And if not, please check these movies out and get back to me and let me know exactly what you think. Do they stand the test of time? Are they great sequels? And is this a great franchise? Now, gang, thank you for checking this out. This is Garrett at Born2beRad. And like always, stay rad.